Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a selfie collage in Photopea, which is an online photo editing app that is similar to Photoshop but does not have as many options. So it's a little bit simpler, easier to follow, easier to find what you want to do. So this is always an option, an alternative to Photoshop if maybe your Photoshop isn't working. Like right now we don't have it on our computers just yet in the semester, but I did want to give you a brief introduction to editing photos and some of the things you can do to create a simple collage. So I've compiled a variety of photos that I might use in my collage. In yours you need to use at least 5 photos and 1 selfie. So I have my selfie here, picture of myself looking at a blue heron, and then I studied abroad in Florence, so I'm going to try and incorporate the Duomo in some way. I'm really passionate about gardening, so I like this old version of the pollinator garden before its current version, and a photo of my son along with a flower just for fun. So find some photos that represent you and let's get started. Open Photopea by going to photopea.com, just on any internet browser. Photopea like the vegetable. And then you're going to select File, New. Or you can just go to New Project where it says so on the front page. I like to always start with like a custom size. I change the units into inches, and we want this to be a square, but I'm going to make it not a square so I can show you how to expand with the crop tool. So 8.5 by 11 tends to be a pretty standard size, and usually when we're working on photos we want them to at least be 150 degrees or 150 pixels per inch, or 300 pixels per inch is a good print size. All right, so I have here my background layer. Whenever I open a photograph in a photo editing website, I like to always start by making a copy of the background layer. So say I opened, file open, that image of me on the lake. I like to always start by making a copy of the background layer by dragging it down to this copy button. It's also a new layer button, so you can create a new layer that way as well. And then this is the trash can next to it to delete what you just did. So I'm just going to stick to working on my new project here. I like to make a new layer so I'm not working on a locked background layer. To place a different file inside of this document, you'll want to go up to File, Open, and Place. And again, this is like a watered down version of Photoshop, so there's a lot more you can do with Photoshop. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of some of the things you could do with photopea.com. So Open and Place will place whatever photo you choose into this document. You can move it around, you can resize it, you can rotate it, and then once you hit enter, it's kind of applied. So if you try to then, resize it again by going up to Edit, and then going down to Free Transform to get those little markers again, the bounding box, you're going to lose rasterization. You're going to lose quality. You're going to lose pixels because this is a raster program. So it works in terms of pixels, little pixels of color to create the image. So if I made this really big, you'd be able to look close and see those pixels. So I'm just going to make it cover the bottom half of my picture, of my collage here. And then I'm going to show you how to create, and I can use the arrow keys to kind of place it more exact. And then I'm going to create a blending mask. So down here at the bottom of the layers panel, these over here on the right are panels. They open when you go to menu and you can choose which ones you want to have open. I always like having adjustments open whenever I'm working on a photograph, so you can make minor adjustments like brightness and contrast. You can see what that does to the image. Makes darks darker and the lights lighter. You might want to minimize this. And then you can, do other things like make it black and white. If you didn't like those changes that you made, you can it's on a separate layer in your layers panel here, which is the most important panel to have open. You can just drag it to the trash and it'll undo that change. Okay, so I'm going to delete this brightness and contrast adjustment layer for right now. And again, if these ever get closed or not open, you can find them under window adjustments. So I'm going to add a mask at the bottom of the layers panel, that's one of my options. So right now you can't see what it's doing because everything is revealed. It's a white mask, but anywhere I add black to this mask, it's going to hide. And anywhere obviously that's white, it will be revealed. So I'm going to use the gradient tool, which is right over here, and just click and drag. So right now it's going from blue to white. I don't want that. I want it to go from black to white. Come on, apply. Sometimes it's glitchy. So that's the one downside between this program and Photoshop. If we change it, there we go. So it just works a little differently. I'm used to Photoshop, so there may be some things that I try and I'm like, oh, that doesn't work the same way. Let's see. So I'm trying to blend it. There we go. That's somewhat. So you can see that it's fading from hidden to revealed at the bottom of my collage, so I can add some more elements at the top. So I'm just going to place another file by going to File, Open, and Place. And for this one, I want to place the photo of my son. So here it is. Again, I can resize it with my transform options. If I ever, hit enter and I lose that bounding box. Again, you use the move tool. This arrow right here will help you navigate around your document. So you can just click on different pictures and move them separate from one another because they're on separate layers. So I might even rename this Augie. It's my son's name, and here's the layer that I'm on. So I could rearrange these, put one under the other, but I want Augie to be at the top. So I'll just drag it up to the top of my layers panel, and there he is above the other photo. So I'm going to use the ellipse select tool. So these top two tool categories have all of the selection tools underneath of them. So we'll look at some of those now. So the ellipse tool will allow you to select in a circle, and if you hold shift, it'll make it a perfect circle. And then I can just reposition it where I want it. And then if I just hit the mask button right now, it'd be a very sharp edge. I can hit the refine edge button and create more of like a soft edge. It doesn't do a perfect job in this program, but in Photoshop, it would be like a really nice blend. So click OK, and there's my circular selection here. So I might place him off to the side somehow. I could even make him bigger by going to Edit, Free Transform. And usually there's 2 or 3 ways to do anything in Photoshop. Okay. Now I'm going to place that sunflower. So File. Oh, before I do that, let me show you. If I wanted to say just change the brightness of this photo or any of these adjustments on this image here, notice if I just add an adjustment layer, it affects the entire document, everything underneath this adjustment layer. But if I wanted to only affect my baby, then I'll click on this little clip to button at the bottom, and now it's pointing to just the layer below it. So now it only affects that one layer. That's a very important distinction to make. Hide that. Okay, so now above this adjustment layer, I'm going to add another photo. Let's get that sunflower in here. File, Open, and Place. Find the sunflower. And then I want to get rid of this background. I just want the sunflower. I don't want the black behind it. So the size is okay for now. I'm just going to go down to this other category of selection tools, which has the magic wand. So this selects based on color. I could also use the quick selection tool and just kind of like drag around, and notice it kind of paints my selection depending on what I click on. So this is a really good option. Make sure you have Add to Selection on. But the magic wand tool would probably be the best tool for this case. Command D to deselect, or you go up to Select, Deselect, because the magic wand tool, Command D to deselect, will select based on color. So I can click on that background. If I hit delete the first time, it'll say, oops, it's not a smart object, it's a smart object, it's not rasterized. Click OK to rasterize it, and then you can hit delete again and get rid of those pixels. Okay, so now I have this nice floating sunflower thing here. If I want to rotate it, I have to go up to Edit, Free Transform, and then I can hover outside the corner and kind of rotate it there. Okay, so I kind of like it overlapping my other images. Now I'm going to place the photo of my student in the pollinator garden. Oops, kind of covered up there. So File, Open in Place, and we did that on Earth Day last year. Now notice this photo came in below the sunflower photo, so if I want it to be on top, I can drag it all the way up in the layers panel. Now I kind of want to follow the lines of this architecture and create an uneven selection. So I'm going to go down here to my first category of selection tools. This lasso tool will allow you to select in like a freeform selection. I don't want that, I want straight lines. So I'm going to go to the polygonal lasso tool. So this one I'm just going to click and then click and then click. Let's see, maybe we can make it more of a shape like that. Hit enter whenever you're ready, and then again you can hit that mask button and it's going to hide everything outside of those marching ants. Okay, so something like that. It's a little uneven, but that's okay. And then now I might decide that I do want it to be below my sunflower, and it might look good also below Augie. There we go. So we can kind of get a glimpse of the pollinator garden back there. Now, if you have a lot of white left over, you might want to add a color to your background. So you can just click on like your background layer. So this is at the very bottom. And if you hide it, you'll notice that you see this checkerboard. This means transparent. There's nothing on any layers. So it shows up as transparent. But here's the white background. I can use, oh, and this toggles between visible and invisible. So on each of these layers, you can turn off the little eyeball to see what's on that layer. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. So it's still there. It can just be hidden. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find my paint bucket tool underneath the gradient. So if I hold down, you can see all the hidden tools underneath each of these categories. And if the tools are ever not right, you can always change the workspace. Let's see. Oh, this is different than in Photoshop. So never mind. I'll show you that when we get to Photoshop. But for now, just stick with the basic tools that Photopea offers by default. So you go to the paint bucket tool. I'm going to select a color that's kind of already in my document. I should have practiced this ahead of time because I might go to the eyedropper tool, wherever that, there it is. Okay. So I might like get this exact shade of blue from my son's clothing, and then I might open it and get like a lighter, slightly lighter version. Okay, so this is the foreground color, this is the background color, the foreground color will kind of be the color that's active that I'm using. So I'm going to grab my paint bucket and then just apply that color to the background. It'll really apply to whatever you click on, you know, if you're on the right layer. So say I want to fill this with blue. I don't want to, but I can click with the paint bucket tool and fill large spaces with color. Okay, and then for my last photo, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I need 5, I'm just going to expand the workspace here. My canvas is what this is called. This is the printable area. So if I go to my crop tool, I can just drag it out, give it a little extra space, make it look more like a square. And if you want to get exact, you can use the rulers, which are under view. You can see the rulers, so you can see exactly how big it is. So like around 800 by 800, give it a little extra room. And now you can see that this is transparent. There's nothing there. So I'm going to place a photo one last time. File, open, and place. You can also just go File, open, and then copy and paste. So if I open that, notice I have 2 different documents that I'm working on now in 2 different tabs. So now I can just Command A to select all, edit, copy, and then I can go back to this document and just choose edit, paste. So that would be another way to get that photograph on this document. You can go up to edit free transform to make it smaller. We're trying to make it fit in this little window over here, so we do kind of need it to be tall. There we go. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in, hit enter. That's about the size I want. And then I'm just going to drag it down below all of my layers. Might be helpful if I filled my screen. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to go down, down, down. I kind of want it, yeah, beyond that. So I might go, because I'm noticing, I'm going to use my move tool, place it so you can see the Duomo in that little section. And then I don't like what's happening here. Ooh, I might even make a copy of my background layer and bring that up above it too. There we go. So now we have the blue showing, and then this is just sort of like almost like a bookmark size or something, a little window that my Duomo is showing through. There we go. And then if I wanted to be real exact, I might go back to this mask and add to it, so I can use the paintbrush with black selected. Black hides, white reveals, remember? So I can make my paintbrush bigger by hitting the right bracket key and smaller with the left bracket key. And then I can just erase that part of this image because it's on this layer. Okay, so there is my collage. The last step is to add some text. So you just go to the text tool, click, and type your name. Try and place it somewhere that it will show up. And then there's a lot of effects that you can add. You can go to edit free transform, just like an image, and make it bigger. You could also, since it's text, you can edit a lot of the properties of the text. So you can change the size here. You can change the font. Oh, that's fancy. Yeah, because the Duomo makes me feel fancy. So you can do something like that. Let's see. So double click to go back and edit that. Oh, I like that one. Okay, now notice how it's black. I could change that font color right here if I wanted to. Make it something that'll stand out, but something that also goes with my image. So this bright green doesn't really go very well. So what else I could do is I could click on it. Oh, this is something that only in Photoshop. Maybe. No, I think I could do it. I'm going to try something. So if you click with the magic wand tool, make sure you don't have contiguous selected, because if that's selected, it'll only select one letter. But if you take off contiguous, it'll select all the areas in this document that are that shade of green. And then we can go to a new layer. And what happens when we place? File, open and place. Let's see, I have some texture somewhere. I think it's, maybe we can use the jack-o'-lantern. I had some leaves. Okay, so, whoops, Command D. Let's just place it underneath. Make sure you use the move tool. I'm gonna place it under my text. And then, because I love Halloween, so I'm going to see about maybe filling these letters with the jack-o'-lantern pattern. So if I go back to my text, I did this in the wrong order. I can select it. And then I can go to my jack-o'-lantern, hide my text, and then just hit the mask tool. And now my letters look like they have the color of a jack-o'-lantern. So that might make it stand out a little bit better. And I can even add some different effects. So if I go down to the effects menu, I can add a stroke. If I want to add like a border around the letters, obviously that makes it stand out a little bit better. I could change the size of that stroke. Something like that. I can also add like a drop shadow. Change the size. Oops, that's the stroke. Let's go to the drop shadow. It a little closer to the letters. There we go. Change the size. And that'll make them stand out better. Okay, so go ahead and start on your collages. Find 5 photos that represent you, 1 selfie, and add your name.